Yeah, man. Yeah. Morning.
Everybody probably gonna start the fear. Yeah, I saw yours empty too. Well, mine's ain't empty. I have a few posts. This is mute. Am I mute? I'm mute, right?
No. Yeah, you are.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Let me see if I make myself full.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Keithlin.
Good morning, Keithlin.
How's everybody doing?
Oh,
I'm good.
we're good.
Well, Otto is here as well to support. Latoya, do you need us to play the video as well on Zoom? Or
Well, I actually gave it to the technician who is here.
okay.
So the only issue, he said, so probably I should allow you to play it from Zoom, because if he plays it, then who is online would not be able to see. So probably it's best if you play it. That's workable?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Let me.
So if she gets that started, then you work on it.
I'm going to play the video. So let me know if you can see it. Give me a second.
Yes, so I started my journey with Helen Daughters in 2023. After completing the ad academy, I registered to become a member and was successful. I've been a member of.
Thank you.
We can't give it all away. Thanks. Okay.
What you said, Uncle?
Oh, didn't take a video, eh?
Okay, so me say anything again? Okay. I see you see mention. I was thinking right now, but yeah, forget me. What else? Yeah. But I see you see, but let me see. Okay.
We don't need any mics.
We have mic on.
So, testing.
Mhm. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Latoya Matthew-Duncan, the country coordinator for Helen's Daughters, and I'll be moderating today's session and panel discussion, cultivating leadership and inclusion ambassador-led innovation across communities. Over the next 90 minutes, we'll have 45 minutes of panel dialogue, followed by 45 minutes for audience questions, which is you guys. So please pay attention and feel free during that period to ask questions of our panelists, who I'm sure would be more than happy to assist you. The goal is to explore how grassroots leadership, private sector engagement, and ambassador-led initiatives can create meaningful impact in our communities and across the Caribbean. I would like to welcome our panelists to this session. First, joining us virtually, all the way from St. Lucia, we have Mrs. Keithlin Caroo-Afrifa, and I'm so happy that I'm getting her surname correct now. Keithlin, did I say it correct this time?
Perfectly.
Fabulous. Fabulous. She's our executive director for Helen's Daughters. Through Helen's Daughters, she's advancing women in agriculture across the Caribbean. She also leads the Ambassadors Program, Cultivating Grassroots Leadership, Policy Influence, as well as Male Allyship in Women-Led Initiatives, and much more. Let's welcome our panelists from online, Mrs. Keithlin Caroo-Afrifa. Our next panelist. Now, this is another one for me as it comes to name. So I'm just usually accustomed to just saying Mackie Tross, Mackie, and each time I have to introduce him, that's the only time I remember he have another name other than Mackie Tross. Mr. McLevon Tross. He's a board member, private sector. He's a board member of Helen's Daughters, and he's also fully involved in the private sector and has a huge agricultural background. His professional experience in technology and agriculture that looks at growing up, that assisted him as he grew up as the only male among many sisters, and has a deep appreciation for women's leadership as to why Mr. Tross is so well fitted for Helen's Daughters. He serves on the board of Helen's Daughters, strengthening partnerships between civil society and the private sector. We want to thank Mr. Mackie Tross for joining from the other half of Paradise, Nevis, to be here with us today. Now, also from the other half of Paradise, Nevis, we have Miss Beryl Seaton, and she's a member of Helen's Daughters, as well as one of our first, we have two actually ambassadors for St. Kitts and Nevis, and they are actually the first for Helen's Daughters. And this morning, we will be actually looking at her project, which is Go Box for Empowerment. Now, with the ambassadorship, as well as the Go Box for Empowerment initiative, Beryl have been improving women with disability as it relates to still encourage them to play a major role in farming. She's dedicated to creating accessible opportunities in agriculture for women and for persons with disabilities. We'll share her journey with you this morning and discuss the Go Back initiative, which I'm sure many of you will be pleased to hear. And it's also it's a community project, and it's extremely impactful. I actually had the opportunity to be with Beryl on Saturday to create a video that we are going to play shortly and to assist her with distributing her first Go Backs. So Beryl will now share her personal journey and the inspiration behind the Go Backs for Empowerment. To give you a closer look at Beryl's work, we'll watch that short video that we actually started on Saturday, which highlights the Go Backs for Empowerment. It looks at its origin, community impact, and innovative solutions. We'll now watch the video.
Helen daughter have given. Yes, so I started my journey with Helen Daughters in 2023. After completing the Ad Academy, I registered to become a member and was successful. I've been a member of Helen Daughter, I've gained some benefits, like I have a market to sell my produce, and I've also been in camaraderie with other members of Helen Daughter through the WhatsApp chat and through field visits. When I was chosen as an ambassador, I was a bit skeptical. Being a very shy person, I did not want to be in the front, so although I accepted the position, I thought it was probably a one-off thing, so I accepted it. But after becoming an ambassador, I've received so much benefit. I got training in brand building, training in grant writing, and I was given the opportunity to travel on several occasions to represent Helen Daughters, and it was really beneficial for me. I call this project the Grow Box for Empowerment Project because I'm trying to empower persons with disabilities and older women who may not be able to go out and till the soil. So I'm making a grow box for donation to persons with disabilities and older women over 60. This grow box is built at a height where they can use it and manage it from a chair, sitting down on a chair, or even from a wheelchair. I was inspired because of my own condition. I am a person with a disability, and I am a strong advocate for persons with disabilities. So I wanted to provide them or give back to them. I've been building grow boxes for a couple of weeks now. So far I've built about 6 grow boxes. My first grow box I will donate today to a person with a physical disability. She's an amputee, and when I introduced the box to her, she was very enthusiastic and was willing to accept one, so I will be giving her the grow box today. What I will be providing is the grow box and what I call a starter kit. The starter kit contains a little hand shovel, a pair of gloves, a spray bottle, and some seeds. The individual will get a start. They don't have to go out and look for seedlings or anything like that to start their farming journey. Okay, the challenges, they weren't much challenges for the project. Just mainly one is the production of the seedlings. Right now, the weather is extremely hot, and you have to have cool conditions for seedlings to grow. With donation from the civil society, I might be able to secure some more. My project is scalable, which means I don't have to stop in my community, okay? This project can be extended to other communities, other villages, even another country. This project, the Go Box for Empowerment, can reach people even across the Caribbean. And my intention is to continue my project as far as possible, okay?
Thank you very much, Beryl. And just so that you guys know, the tools in her hands, the drill, etc., they weren't for props. Beryl literally built all of those. She did her measurements, she did her cutting of her board, she did everything. I was so impressed with that. I actually want to go back myself. So Beryl, just remember me, please. So Beryl, now to you. Tell us more. We have now distributed the first grow box to a community member in Beryl area, which actually live very close to her, probably maybe a few 100 meters. So Beryl, tell us what the community impact has been, like the response to persons who are now aware of this grow box initiative.
Well, the response has been great so far. The first recipient to receive the grow box was very enthusiastic, and she has since shared pictures with all of her friends, shared it on social media, and I'm now getting tons of calls, people who want to know how to get onto the program, how they can receive a grow box. One individual even told me that his mother is in a home and he wants a grow box to take to that home for his mom. And it's a good feeling.
Yes, I could imagine, because I mean, I'm not joking, Beryl. I actually want one. So I want to know about. So tell us a little bit more, though, about what inspired you to start this initiative.
The The inspiration for this initiative came from my own experience as a person with a disability. Having a disability is no easy fit, and sometimes the systems are not made for persons with disabilities, okay? So I wanted to give back something to my community because I'm still, although I have a disability, I'm still strong and well and can still till the soil to a certain extent. But I wanted to give back to those who are unable to do so. So I came up with, after Helen's daughter asked us to come up with an initiative for the community, I came up with the Grow Box for Empowerment. I'm trying to empower those with physical disabilities and those older women who don't have the physical capability to till the soil anymore. So that my inspiration was drawn from my own condition. Okay, the Grow Box for Empowerment would provide food security for the individual, plus they can sell any excess and earn an income. And it also provides inclusion because too often we are left out of the equation because we have a physical disability. So my intention was to include these people with physical disability and give them something so that they can better their life.
Okay, thank you very much, Beryl. You spoke quite a bit about a disability and the exclusions for persons who have disabilities. Can you enlighten us a little bit more on some of the challenges you face as a woman with a disability in agriculture and being in a leadership role as you are now one of the ambassadors for Helen's Daughters for St. Kitts and Nevis? So can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Okay, being an ambassador or even a member of Helen's Daughter did not magically make the challenges I have disappear. It somewhat enlightened them, but challenges are still there, but being a member comes with some perks. I receive much needed training I needed as an ambassador. I got some grant writing training as well as training in public speaking, as well as training in agriculture. But the challenges, there's some challenges that would not go away. These are the physical challenges, okay? The farming systems were not made with the disabled person in mind. So we have to create new ways to get around these challenges. We may not be able to farm the traditional way. And whatever we do will definitely take a longer period of time, but it eventually gets done. Apart from the physical barriers, there's also the stereotyping. People believe that person with disability shouldn't be in farming. And some would even prefer we go and do some sort of crafts or something like that. And they believe that we would not succeed as farmers. So we have to get over these challenges also. Access to resources such as training is even harder to come by because most of the time the programs are not inclusive, you know? So I personally had to break barriers, had to, you know, try to overcome most of these challenges. And being a member of Helen's Daughters and an ambassador actually helped me overcome some of these challenges. The training, for instance, and they helped me gain the much needed skills I need in public speaking and grant writing and such. But each hurdle I overcome paves the way for the others. So I am grateful to Helen's Daughters for accepting me as a member and also giving me the opportunity to lead.
Thank you. Before we move on to Mr. Mackie Tross, Beryl, your journey shows how grassroots innovation and personal leadership can transform communities, can transform individual families. Before we move to the next panelist, what advice would you give to other women with disabilities who want to step up into leadership roles in agriculture, who might just want to do a little bit more as relates to agriculture?
Well, that's a good question. Leadership, a leadership role is not something you just decide you want to go into. You have to have the ability to lead. And the advice I would give to persons with disabilities who wants to lead and who have the drive to lead, don't let your disability affect your limitation. You know your limitation and you know what you can do and what you cannot do. So whatever you want to do, go for it. And every hurdle you overcome is paving the way for others behind you. If I can do it, so can you. Your limitation is your strength. So be strong.
Thank you, Beryl. We'll now move on to our second panelist for this morning, Mr. McLevon Mackie Tross, board and private sector individual. So we'll have his perspective. Mr. Mackie, now earlier we shared how growing up as the only male among sisters shaped your view on women's leadership, and how private sector collaboration strengthens civil society initiatives. And here you are again among even more sisters. How many sisters do you have? Let me say, maternally or paternally?
That would have been my next question. But by mother, father, I've got 8 sisters plus 2 because my parents adopted 2 daughters. So I grew up with 10 sisters, actually. My mom, my dad. So yeah, I was around ladies from the inception.
And now you have over about 300 more across the region.
That's correct. So I've got lots of sisters. I'm checking the World Guinness Book of Records, actually, to see where I'm ranked, because I think I'm right up there.
Yes, you are. So, Mr. Tross, how has your family background shaped your perspective?
That's a good one. In terms of my growing up, like I said, I grew up with 10 sisters, my mom, so 11 females, just my dad. And from an early age, I started admiring the work that my sisters were doing, how my mom was actually running the house, because believe it or not, my father was the breadwinner, but she was the manager of the house. She did all the accounting. She made sure that food was on the table every day. She made sure that we were well prepared for school. And I saw my sisters kind of emulating mama. And from a very young age, I started to say, well, listen, ladies have a peculiar way of doing things. I was in sports, so I was able to get a lot of brothers as well, participating in sports. But I always look back to the care and the tenderness and the way ladies do things. And you guys are a special being. Being able to multitask, most men don't have a clue. And so I started paying attention. And then my sister's friends became my friends, so I got even more sisters. And each one of them brought a different perspective to life. And looking at my sisters, all 10 of them became successful. And just the way that women go about doing things, you started paying attention and you started to say, listen, you really want to see women evolve and getting more opportunities to be in leadership, because you could see the management and you could see the leadership skills in women, but they were just stifled. And so throughout my life, I have put myself in positions to help the advancement of the cause of women. And here am I, with Helen's daughters for the past few years, just getting another 300 plus sisters. It's incredible.
Thank you so much. And I really have to mention Mr. Mackie Tross' selection for women, Helen's daughters, and I have to mention Mrs. Tross also, who is his manager. He said it, not I. Okay. So, Mr. Tross, how do you see grassroots initiatives like the group, how do you see both technology and agriculture? What unique insights do you think they bring to the board of Helen's daughters?
Well, my background is technology. I did biomedical engineering for about 10 years. I did computers and networking for another 10 plus. And then I got into farming, which is really my passion. And the two, to me, complement each other. People try to ask me that same question. But the fact is, agriculture is evolving. And to be able to use the technology to advance agriculture is a win-win situation for me.
Mm-hmm.
I do most of my farming in greenhouses. As a matter of fact, I'm the owner of A1 Farms, and we have a complement of 4 greenhouses and 1 shade house. And the technology in these houses really makes life a lot easier for us. All the watering is done automatically. We now have monitoring systems for moisture, for temperature, for humidity, and so on. So even though Beryl alluded to the heat outside, we're affected, but not to the same extent, because we're still able to propagate our seeds on a weekly basis and bring our fresh vegetables and greens to the market on a weekly basis. As a matter of fact, because of the incorporation of technology, we are still able to bring quite a bit of lettuce, kale, pak choy, callaloo to the market on a daily basis. So the use of technology and my background in technology has made farming a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you visit A1 Farms, you look in and you look around and you say, wait, am I in Nevis? Because the atmosphere looks like you're someplace else. But it's because of the implementation and the adaptation of the technology into agriculture itself.
Thank you. And just how Mr. Tross stated, I actually had that impact. The first time I saw his farm, I was at because when we were driving to it, I expected that we were actually going into the mountains, etc. But here we are actually driving in a sort of a domesticated area where you have, where you saw persons, family, houses, etc. So I was wondering, where is this farm? And then when we got there, you know, and I go in and I see these greenhouses and the amount that they produce, it's really in awe. So if you have never seen Mr. Tross' farm, you have the opportunity to speak to him and find out if it's possible for you to actually see it. So, Mr. Tross, now you also serve as a Helen's Daughter board member, as a civil society individual, entrepreneur. I'm an engineer. What value do you see in engaging these different organizations with organizations like Helen Daughters?
Well, traditionally, in terms of agriculture, we know that traditionally it's a man's game. Let's put it that way. We talk about inclusion, and my role really is to shed some light on some of the areas that we could tap into to make it a lot easier for women in farming. As a farmer myself, I had my challenges. So I'm thinking, hey, if I'm a traditional farmer and getting these challenges, what would the women be facing? So I'm using my expertise, my experience to open doors so that I could structure programs at the board level to enable women in agriculture to get access to financing, get access to lands, get access to markets, to marketing, and so on and so forth. Because I think the limitation is there, and we have to face it, and we have to put the necessary tools in place at the board level so that it could trickle down into the different communities to make life easier for women in agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Tross. Now, you spoke about agriculture and the role that men plays. Most of them do play the leading role in agriculture. What role, however, do you see men playing as allies in a woman-led space, especially in the agricultural sector, trying to work along besides women instead of more in a leadership role?
Well, one of the things that we have to do as men is to give the support. The ladies have the know-how. Believe it, I've seen it. They have the know-how. All they need is that chance. So if the support is there, you would see how they would excel. They are better than us in a lot of areas in agriculture. I mean, I could tell you, my wife, she does all of the propagation. She's very, very good at sowing seeds, growing from cuttings and so on. So making creating that particular space for women to excel in agriculture is the role that I see men playing. That supportive role, that role to say, well, listen, hey, I'm going to help you acquire a piece of land. I'm going to talk to the neighbor down the road because we have a good relationship to lease us a piece of land. And I'm going to help you get some financing. I'm going to show you the ropes. I'm going to help you with the marketing and just support. You could do it. I've seen the skill sets in you. You can do it. Just that kind of support and encouragement. That would go a very, very long way.
Okay, Mr. Tross, before we close, what advice would you like to give to those individuals who are thinking about going into farming, whether it is male or female?
Farming is, for me, maybe because of my passion, but it's a no-brainer. Everybody must eat. And don't be limited because you don't have a lot of space. If you see how A1 Farm started, we started in my backyard with a 20 by 30 space. And after a short period of time, even in that little space, there was not enough family and friends. And you know, my family is big with 10 sisters. We just couldn't find enough people to give the produce to. So that's when I started selling produce at my electronics store. And so the point is, some of us may have a little bit more space than others, but do not be restricted by space because there's a lot you could do in a very small space, especially if you incorporate the technology into farming. And farming is not a sideline job anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I left, case in point, I left electronics, computers, and I'm now into farming full-time for over 12 years. I farm commercially. I've got a complement of 4 guys full-time and 2 part-time. So farming could make you an honest, good living. Now, you just have to find your niche market. And the niche market means that there's a lot of little areas that you could tap into. If you go to the supermarket and you realize, hey, every week I come to this supermarket and it's a leading supermarket, they don't even have spinach. You don't need a lot of space to grow spinach. They don't have callaloo. You don't need a lot of space to grow callaloo. Herbs is another thing. All right? Beryl alluded to grow boxes. Couple grow boxes in the backyard, and you're gone. I must tell you that when we started experimenting with the greenhouse and the greenhouse technology, I started with a small shade house that was 12 by 20. So even a small space like that, you could do wonders. Cucumbers, from seed to fruit, you got 6 weeks. Lettuce, same thing, 42 days, from seed to a full-grown head of lettuce. And right now, we've got what you call vertical farming. So you could stack the lettuce vertically, grow them vertically. So you really don't need a lot of space. If you have space, you could do wonders, because the greenhouses come, well, a full-size greenhouse, you could be talking 30 feet by 100 feet. And that greenhouse itself could probably hold about 3,000 to 4,000 heads of lettuce. And so you could see, just throwing some raw numbers out there, if you're putting out 500 heads of lettuce per week, for starters, at $5, 5 5s are 25, you got $2,500. Your input might only be 500. So understand we could go places and do a lot with agriculture, and it doesn't have to be the back-breaking hoe and fork type agriculture. There's technology that we can use. There's technology that is readily available. And I'm here, I'm open. I don't know it all, but whatever I know, I'm willing to share.
Yes, work smart, not hard. Now, part of Helen's Daughters is actually about telling stories, learning through stories. And what I think Mr. Tross just did is actually forget to tell us how his story actually started. He told us part of it, but my favorite part of that is actually how it was started. So, Mr. Tross, before we move over to Keithlin, I would like you to do it properly, please, and say how you actually got into farming.
Well, it's twofold, really. I grew up in farming. I grew up, my dad was a construction worker. And them days, they keep saying one hand can't clap. So he used to farm in the afternoons and when he doesn't have a house to build. But then I got into technology and all this kind of stuff. And I was away from farming for a long time. Suffice it to say that I moved back from Canada in 2000. One of my sons, I think he was in second form, and he came home with an agricultural project. And that project was to grow some seedlings and document on a weekly basis the seedlings from that stage right up to maturity, whole term project. So my wife, she was from town. She really didn't have a clue. And so she brought home from agriculture department a tray of 72 tomato seedlings. Now, at the time I had two big Great Danes. If you guys know dogs, 2 big dogs. And so we had to fence off a space in the yard to keep out the dogs. And that space still exists today. It's 20 by 30. And we produce so many tomatoes that she kept nagging me. Tross, we can't find people to give them to. Why don't you sell? I said, well, yeah, that's a good idea, but electronics and produce just don't mix. But after 3 days, she still keep coming. Every night you go to sleep, you hear the same thing. You get up in the morning, same thing. So I say, okay, I'll take you up on it. So she started putting about 5 tomatoes in a bag. And I took maybe about 20 or 25 bags to the shop that day. When I picked her up for lunch, she said, Tross, tell me what happened. Don't tell me you sell off all. I said, well, you just told me don't tell you, so I can't tell you. But the truth is, we want tomato to sell. And we went back the next day and the next day and the next day until the whole tomato crop was gone. And when we added up the money, I turned to her and I said, wife, I think we're onto something. And I think we're onto something big. And so from that, we just used it as a family project, come home in the afternoon and did a little bit of farming. And we realized that, hey, this thing is catching on. The supermarket started calling because they hear about the produce. Truth be told, I live on quite a bit of land, an acre, just under an acre. And we started expanding. Most of it was fruit trees and and so on. So we started expanding the farm. Then I was into the supermarkets, but then realized, hey, in the summer months from June down to September, it was getting a little bit difficult outside with the weather. So I remember my days from Canada, used to see the big greenhouses and so on, and they used to grow tomatoes all year round. Whether it's snow, whether it's sleet, it really doesn't matter. And so I started doing some research in greenhouse technology. Went off to Angola, visit the Cruising Art Hotel. They had a state-of-the-art facility there. I came back and I was sold. And so started experimenting, built the first shade house in my yard, 12 by 20, kind of cucumbers and tomatoes I got out of there. Sold, triple sold. And then we went commercial in about we built the greenhouse in 2012 and commissioned it in 2013. And since that, I've built 3 more greenhouses. And in every major supermarket in Nevis. I started supplying value martins and kits, but the demand in Nevis is so much that hardly anything ever makes it over here. So just to tell you, don't be daunted. Start small, use the technology, and the sky's the limit, really. All right?
Thank you very much, Mr. Tross. I told you it was my favorite part of the story. Your insights highlight the crucial role of partnership in amplifying women-led initiatives, as well as the major role farming can play in sustaining households financially, as well as adding to the food security issues that we are currently experiencing globally. Now, let's hear from our final panelist for this morning, Keithlin. So Keithlin is joining us virtually from St. Lucia, and she will share the vision behind the Ambassadors Program and insights on grassroots leadership, policy influence, and male allyship. Keithlin, if you can just start with a brief introduction for our audience members, please.
Sure, Latoya, I will. But before I go into it, I actually wanted to just tag back onto Beryl and to Mackie, just to say, I wish I could be here today, but Beryl, we are all so proud of you. I think when we saw the video, some of us were like, oh my gosh, we're crying. It's just beautiful to see. And also, I know Mackie has spoken a lot about A1 farms. I think it would be, we heard Beryl's story, but I think it would be nice to virtually transport people to A1 farms. And I do happen to have a video. So if possible, I'd like to share that before I go into sort of my area. So maybe we can just do a quick virtual tour of Mackie's farm.
Good day and welcome to A1 Farms. My name is Mackie Tross. I'm the owner-manager of this establishment. Right now we're in the cucumber house and we grow cucumbers here. Normally what we do is we try to get a rotation going such that we have cucumbers that we put to the market every single day of the week. Sustainable agriculture is our forte, and so we believe that Nevis can supply and sustain food grown locally. I'm taking this opportunity to invite one and all to Nevis. And when you come to Nevis, be sure to visit A1 Farms and see exactly how your food is grown. Happy World Tourism Day.
Thank you very much, Keithlin. So please,
I know Mackie is
you
expecting
have the invitation from Mr. Tross officially. So for those of you who have never seen it, please link up after. Keithlin?
Yes, well, again, thank you so much, everyone, for coming to our CWA event, both virtually and in person. As Latoya, Matthew-Duncan, who's our lovely coordinator in St. Kitts and Nevis and who oversees all our programs and initiatives on those twin islands. We, in St. Lucia, Helen's Daughters is based there, but we operate across 3 Caribbean countries. So St. Kitts and Nevis, of course, St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And as you've heard, we're an organization that supports women in agriculture in many ways. Our support really doesn't look at only just pushing women and driving them into the agricultural sector, but developing them holistically, like Beryl, as movers and shakers and potential leaders in our families, our communities, our region, and of course, the world. And Helen's Daughters, what we essentially do, we focus in 3 areas. The first is training and capacity development. So, of course, as Beryl mentioned, the ambassador program, which we just launched this year, we had 7 ambassadors in total, 2 in St. Kitts and Nevis, 2 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and 3 in St. Lucia, who went through training from grant writing to essentially public speaking and personal branding to being selected. Beryl was one of the persons who did a pitch session and was luckily enough to get selected. Her grow boxes for empowerment was one of the top 3 projects. So ambassadors like Beryl got essentially a micro grant to begin their country projects. So aside from the training, we're right now having our Ag Academy, which is being run every year annually. It's a 10-week program that covers areas from sustainable agriculture to agritourism, to intellectual property, to agribusiness development. Mr. Mackie Tross is one of our trusted facilitators. He's been, I think, doing this program with us for perhaps the last 3 or 4 years now. And then of course we have trainings like the Life Academy and so forth, which is more holistic. So you will touch on things from psychological first aid to even last night we had sessions on breast cancer awareness and so forth. The second is our market access. We're really well known for our farmers markets. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we have farmers markets in collaboration with Four Seasons Nevis. In St. Lucia, we have our markets twice a month in the north of the island, and in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we just launched our markets in Georgetown. We've been a broker for a number of our members with supermarkets, with hotels, with restaurants as well. And finally, what we call a structured care system. So, for example, in the passage of Hurricane Beryl last year, we were able to respond in cash and voucher assistance. That's also how our psychosocial support program, our free telecounseling initiative started, and it's still running to this day. So our members have access to free counseling. And obviously, as I mentioned, we have been for the last 3 years responding to disasters in the form of cash and voucher assistance. But also just providing a safe space, even like when we look at our sister circles that are spaces for our women to learn and grow together. Our unconference on agriculture, which just passed in August, that covered a myriad of topics, but the main point was to bring the agricultural community across the region together. So we're a small organization, but I think we're trying to do a lot, and it's really amazing to have partners like Beryl and like Mackie working alongside us, and of course you, Latoya.
Hi, thank you very much, Keithlin. So we did have a little bit more about the ambassadors program. We heard from Beryl already, and we heard a little bit from you, but Keithlin, can you tell us what was the original vision behind the ambassadors program and how has it evolved over time?
I think oftentimes when we start an organization, we think that the powers should remain within the organization. What we're trying to do at Helen's Daughters is, again, to pour into the women that we support so that Helen's Daughters, in a sense, years from now, ceases to exist, that the problems are not the same, that women are leaders and problem solvers in every area that we've operated in. And when you see women like Beryl, for example, we recognize that as an organization, we cannot and should not do everything. But Beryl had a really interesting perspective. The fact that, of course, she is a woman who is differently abled, and how she needs to approach agriculture. That was a very different perspective, but also it's a gap. That's not just a gap in St. Kitts and Nevis, but across the region. And that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see that sort of grassroots leadership come from our members, so that the organization is not the only one that's trying to create interventions in development, but our own members are. And even the other two members that were selected, we have Natilla Franklin Pilgrim in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who's doing a really interesting school garden project that ties in agriculture and also therapy. So essentially, the project's aim is to bring families closer together by farming together. I've never seen that approach before. A number of persons have been saying that, you know, it's therapeutic. It, as Mackie said, it was a family project that now has turned into a family business. And then in St. Lucia, the Ambassadors Project led by Miss Angelina Augustine is focused on introducing alternative snacks to our primary schools. So we've often focused a lot on, you know, like the three main foods, the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but children love snacks. And unfortunately, the snacks that they usually get are the potato chips and so forth, which are not native to the Caribbean. And also, Latoya, as a nutritionist, you would know, not the best. So what she's doing is a twist on that, looking at locally and seasonally available alternatives from, for example, your dehydrated mangoes to your plantain chips or macaboo chips, to even like, for example, like sea moss, gels and candies and gummies and so forth. So we're really excited about the ambassador projects. I think honestly, for the first year, they're quite a strong and capable group. And I think Beryl is just a small cusp of what's possible within the membership and beyond.
Thank you very much. Now, we spoke a little bit about the initiatives regionally through the Ambassadors Project. Now, how do you think some of these grassroots initiatives can influence regional policies?
I think that I remember the last CWA, we had a screening of our documentary. And right after we had essentially like a Q&A and so forth. And we mentioned disasters and so forth. And it was interesting because that CWA was in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not too long after the passage of Hurricane Beryl. We were invited to a closed ministers of agriculture meeting. And what came up was not just productivity and the resources that were needed, but what came up was the trauma that farmers experience after hurricanes. Mental health challenges came up. And, you know, it was interesting because it's in those grassroots initiatives. For example, a small screening can essentially trickle into somebody's mind, like how, okay, yes, we're giving seedlings, we're giving input, we're giving money, but how are we taking care of the psyche of our people, of our farmers? I think, for example, with Beryl, even as an organization, she's very right in saying that farming wasn't designed for differently abled people. In St. Lucia, you're seeing the National Council for People of Disabilities who did this beautiful hydroponic facility and are now able to supply the supermarkets by differently abled people from that. I think Beryl's Grow Box initiative is something that can be replicated across not just the region, across the world, because again, farming represents so much more than just growing food. It's freedom, it's therapy, it's community. And I think Beryl has tapped into something that's so important and something we missed. So it's beautiful to see an ambassador bringing up an area that even the organization missed out on and sort of spearheading that. And to be honest, it's something that now we're looking to invest further in if all goes well with the grow boxes for empowerment.
Yes, thank you so much. So we realize Beryl have really made an impact as well as her other colleague ambassadors. Now they're being the first cohorts. And congratulations to Beryl, I think, Beryl and her other cohorts, because I really think sometimes when persons go, you are the first, you determine whether or not this is something that persons want to build on, or whether we probably should drop the buck there. But I'm so excited that these ladies, Beryl and the other ambassador here in St. Kitts, the other two in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as St. Lucia, have been doing so well. So, Keithlin, what are some of the lessons learned from this program, being that it's so new to Helen's daughters?
I think one of the lessons learned is that the ambassador program needs its own staff, a staff member. That's one of the biggest lessons. But outside of that, I think we were just wowed from the jump with the ideas, the enthusiasm. I think we downplayed the impact of certain trainings. So for example, while of course the grant funding and how to implement a grant and so forth was really important. I think Beryl, maybe she can answer this, but I remember her saying that she was always very shy, never the one to really speak up and so forth. And since the ambassador program, Beryl has literally been an ambassador and one that we're very proud of. And that came from the personal branding training sessions, I think, and those focused on public speaking. Because she does have a story to tell, and it's stories like that that we need to hear. So I think for us, like as much as it takes a lot of capacity along with everything else, as you know, Latoya, that we're trying to do. But yeah, the ambassador program has grown into so much because it really does feel like a leadership development program, if you will.
Yes, and I agree with you. Okay, your final question. Your vision. What is your vision for scaling up some of these initiatives across the Caribbean? We are aware that Helen's Daughters is currently only functioning in 3 Caribbean countries. So I'm not for sure you have a vision. There is always something circling around up there. So Keithlin, give us a little bit about what your next step is or what you think about scaling up some of these initiatives.
I think what we were really intentional in helping to guide the ambassadors, and I think Beryl can also mention this, is we focused on projects that were that were scalable. And so Beryl's Grow Boxes for Empowerment, people with differently abled persons are across the globe. And I've never seen an approach like that. Normally it's like a very huge, like a hydroponics facility and so forth. But what if you just simply want something small and manageable for yourself? Even like the alternative snacks and so forth. I find as Caribbean nationals, we don't place enough emphasis on introducing our children to our own native cuisine. And that's something I think that if we tackle schools starting in the 3 countries that we're in, we're able to essentially try to change the diets and the choices of our children. So I think scalability has always been a big thing for us. I started Helen's Daughters with thinking of St. Lucia and now scaling it to 2 other Caribbean countries. I think as islanders, we usually tend to think in silos and just as an island. And we were really intentional as an organization to think of what we do as something that we approach the Caribbean with. So the idea is to very much invest in these projects going forward, invest in the leadership so that the ambassadors are able to push these projects forward and to also attract the right partners. So like Mackie, the seedlings for Beryl. And, just try to push their voices as much as possible, because at the end of the day, I think a nonprofit's aim should always be that one day our organizations should cease to exist because the problems no longer exist.
Thank you so much, Keithlin. And I really want to thank you for thinking outside of the box and not just thinking about St. Lucia, but remembering that there are other women in the region who have some of the same challenges as St. Lucia. So thank you, Keithlin. I think together, our panelists, their perspective show how leadership, inclusion, and innovation can create a real change at both community as well as policy levels. This morning, we were actually introduced to quite a few areas, quite a few connections as it relates to farming. We look at grassroots innovations, private sector support and male allyship, organizational vision, and scaling impact. I really want to thank our panelists for that, all 3 of them. Beryl, Mackie, Keithlin, thank you so much. We now open the floor to you our audience members for questions, feel free to ask questions. If you want to throw it at Keithlin as relates to leadership, please feel free to do so. You can also look at inclusions, Mackie Tross, and he's using technology for farming, Beryl, and thinking outside of the box for her community-driven initiative. And each time I say Beryl, I'm just telling you, I'm so impressed. Seriously, the first time when I saw Beryl actually making those grow boxes, because when I saw the proposal, I initially thought that she was actually going to get someone to make them. And then when I see Beryl making them, I'm like, that ain't even something that I think I would have ever thought about doing. So I was really impressed with her. So now, however, we'll open the floor to you, our audience members.
Latoya, just before
Mhm.
that, one of the things that I see from the board level is the confidence that Helen's Daughters has brought out in women in the organization. The confidence just to do things knowing that they've got the support. In the case of Beryl, she was a very shy person, but now she have the confidence to speak. Now she have the confidence to do a project. And so that is really instructive to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles. I think we had one question on the floor, or two. So we'll start.
Good morning, Jacqueline Fox from the Bahamas. I listened with great interest. I was here at the last CWA conference, and I was very impressed with the Helen Daughters sessions. So I said I have to be back. In the Bahamas, we tend to do a lot of ground farming, the farmers. And so you mentioned vertical farming. So I am the coordinator for the National Agri Expo. I'm interested in presenting the vertical farming techniques to our farmers because, I mean, we have a lot of land space, but the vertical farming is interesting. And it's a new method, or not a new method, but it's a strategy that I would want to see more farmers utilizing. Do you have any information sharing that I can reach out to somebody who can, share some knowledge on vertical farming, please, that I can hook up with, network with? Thank you.
Yes, I could definitely share my contact and we could take it from there. Yeah. I don't think in St. Kitts and Nevis, there's a organization that takes care of that because we're still new and the technicians at the agriculture department, we're still getting them up to speed. But I could definitely share my contact and we could go from there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Charles. So feel free to follow up with Mr. Charles after this session for additional information. We'll now take another question from the audience.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So I am Alice Jones. I'm from Grenada. I'm not the type of person that would normally speak like that, but I was excited for this part of the session, the question and answer section. I don't particularly have a question. However, I feel so impressed with inclusion in agriculture. Now, I'm coming from a background with inclusion in education, and inclusion in agriculture, I try to, kind of bridge the gap by when I looked at the school system where some of the kids who are differently able are being left out academically, that we create through the program that I'm involved in, the 4-H program in Grenada. We try our best to include the students into the agriculture program. However, I was so impressed in now hearing it at the community level and with farmers. And so as we go back, my takeaway from this session here, which I have my supervisor right here, who is our Chief Extension Officer, I'm challenging her at this point in time to have Helen's daughter as part of Grenada's program. And you have a volunteer right here. This is my, like, I really like the idea of inclusion in agriculture, and I commend you for the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And as you said that, we actually do have a project that involves in education that Mr. Mackie Tross is actually leading in Nevis. So I'll let him tell you a little bit more about it.
Right. It is very timely because 2 years ago, Helen's daughters with, how should I put this? My request really at the board level, saw it fit to donate a shade house to one of the primary schools in Nevis, the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary Schools. So the idea is to start the children from a very young age to see what is there for agriculture, something different to field agriculture. So the classes visit the shade house, which is right on property, and they get involved in planting the seeds. I do some of the seedlings, the more fragile ones like the lettuce and the kale and so on, and take them to the school. But the students are who actually plant the seedlings. They plant them in pots, the full irrigation system, and they see them grow. And the beauty about this is that they get to eat what they grow. And the excess they sell to the parents and sometimes even to the marketing division at the agriculture department. I myself have a storefront, and so when they have excess, I would take and sell for them. And so that just generates some monies for the school itself as well. So it's almost like a multi-purpose establishment. The shade house is 20 by 30, but it does wonders. It's one of the envy of the other primary schools in Nevis right now, I could tell you that much. Yeah, so that may be something you could look into.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tross.
I just want to say one more thing. In Grenada also, we have a special needs school that is part of our program, and they're very, very active. So while we try to do inclusion in education in that aspect, I was just so thrilled to hear about inclusion outside of the education system to include the women, the differently able persons, even the older persons who would be interested. And I really look forward to see how far this is going to go. It's something I'm really, really happy to hear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now take another question from audience member.
Latoya, I'm sorry. Before we take that question, I just wanted to mention two things. One, we do have some questions in the chat on Zoom, and also I would love for us to connect with the Grenada colleague, because we do have plans of expansion to Grenada and Dominica come 2026. So we would love if Latoya, you could get that contact information, just so that we could align our steps. And then Latoya, I guess I'll have the other person, since she already has the mic, and then I'll just mention the next question after she's done.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lauren St. Louis, and as my colleague said, I am the Chief Extension Officer for the Ministry of Agriculture in Grenada. I have followed Helen's daughter on Facebook for quite a while. By chance, I came across it, and I've been following, and I'm so excited to be here today. When I saw it on the agenda, I said, this I must go to. Today I had to actually go to, a minister wanted me to go to a quoted meeting that he's in. And I said, Minister, I have to go to this meeting, because I think what you're doing, the whole organization, is so amazing. I think that giving women that space in agriculture is something that has not been done on a, it happens, but it is not purposeful. And I think that we really need to get women in agriculture, get differently abled women especially, you know, because a lot of times they have so much to give and we don't always give them that space to do that. And my question was going to be, how do we get involved? How can Grenada have a chapter? I would like, as my colleague here, volunteer. I would like to volunteer for us to have some discussion so that we can start a chapter. We have people, we have lots of women in the Ministry of Agriculture now. I have 44 officers that I supervise, and 90% of them are women. And so we really would like to figure out how we can start a chapter. The next CWA, we would have to have us saying from Grenada that we have a chapter of Helen's Daughters. So I will definitely reach out and, well, right after this, share our contacts with you, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I think Keithlin already accepted.
Yes, we did. We are so excited. My colleague is in the back and he's just cheering us on right now because we've been talking about Dominica and Grenada for a while now. So this is just perfect.
It is. So thank you, ladies, so much for being here and for definitely showing that how important it is for us as a region, as a Caribbean, to be connected. Whether it is to programs like these, different activities, it's not all the time that so many the persons, when they get in a room together from different countries, that a lasting connection is made. So I'm happy to say, and with Keithlin permission, I'm going to say this is practically the start of the connection between Helen's Daughters and ladies, your team, your women who are so inspired by agriculture, and those who might want to start. Thank you. Yes, we have
Latoya,
another.
we do have the question on Zoom. Sorry, I don't want to alienate those on Zoom. From Dr. Ione, great session with awesome presenters. Good work by Helen's Daughters and team. The question is, for someone who is new to backyard farming, what are some plants that can grow well in the grow boxes?
So the plants that would grow well in the grow boxes would be shallow rooted plants, such as lettuce, tomato, leafy greens. These are the kind of plant. Herbs and thyme would also go well in the grow boxes.
Thank you, Beryl. And as a matter of fact, the lady who actually the recipient of the first grow box, she's a lover of roses, I think she said too. And so she just might have a section for those ornamental plants also. So there are so many uses for these grow box. I mean, persons who even have a large enough veranda who might want to use a grow box, it can also be used there. Well, it's awesome. So I think even before we close up this session, and Keithlin kindly remind me, I think it would be awesome for us to end with the video from Beryl. Okay, we'll now take a question from the audience members, then we'll go back to the chat in Zoom.
Hi, this is Shelley from the Virgin Islands. I first actually crossed Caitlin's path at a panel in St. Thomas. And I just want to commend you guys as a producer in the room. It's not easy to get information from these events that's actually transferable to us in the field, on the ground, grassroots, doing the work. And this presentation from you guys it makes it possible for us to attain projects like yours, programs like yours, markets like yours. So thank you so much for being done for this here. My question for you from A1 Farms is, when it comes to the greenhouses, how do you prepare for hurricane season, in the sense of how does one invest in greenhouses when some of our islands further up the chain, we're in the hurricane belt. Are they insurable? Not a lot of types of our agricultures are insurable. Beekeeping, I got strapped on my hives. Like, how do you plan for hurricane season in some of our more prone to storm islands? And then the second question is, how do you manage the labor force in the sense of, I mean, we're all working with very, I mean, I feel as if the market's changed, our labor force has changed. How do you keep engaged your employees versus them being on their phone?
Two great questions. First, let's talk about the hurricanes. We know we're in the hurricane belt. Unfortunately, I've scaled the whole Caribbean looking for insurance for protected structures, non-existent today. And that's a real challenge. I've got maybe about $1 million invested in greenhouse technology right now with zero insurance, proper insurance. What we do at A1 Farms is we self-insure. By that I mean we try to keep the things that would be destroyed on hand. So we keep extra plastics, we keep extra netting, drip lines, and so on. But having said that, I'm sure that most of us are religious people. On a pending storm, you start to pray. And you pray hard. And you ask God to divert that storm. Because the reality is not much we could do in terms of insurance. So we put that aside. But technically, we could drop the sides. We normally would drop the sides. The plants that are on trellises, we drop those as well. The idea is to let the wind pass through. And knock on wood, they say, to date, we have survived. Over the years, I just had to replace maybe 1 or 2 plastics from the roof and minimal damage. The trick is, if you're going to do a commercial structure, you get a competent contractor, if you don't have the know-how, to build the actual structure hurricane-proof as much as possible, so that the main investment is still there. And so if you have the netting and the plastic, in a matter of a week, you could rebuild and start again, really. That's the harsh reality. But in terms of relying on reinsurance and on insurance, it's non-existent. So that is what's going on there. To the second question, what was that again? Oh yeah, labor. The thing is, the generation has changed. And from the onset, I said to my guys, if we don't produce, nobody can get paid. All right? I've got my labor force maybe a little bit older. The oldest guy is late 50s. Now the one is just over 50, then 35. Youngest one is 28. But he understands. And I really don't have that problem with the labor force that I have. My son is the problem. He's 28 and he comes on the weekend. But he spends more time taking pictures and posting than actual work. So I would say to him, TJ, this morning we're going to do a little exercise. Let's see who could stay off the phone the longest. You know, and I would get a couple hours worth of work out of it. But yes, I've seen that same problem with the phone, because I would take students in the summer, those who claim that they're interested, and they would come. And even though I speak to them, yes, I could understand the first couple of days because they're excited. They're taking a lot of pictures. But then they start tweeting and stuff like that. And so it's a constant reminder, hey, guys, if you want to work for a telephone company, you're in the wrong place. This is A1 Farm. So by lunchtime, make up your mind what you're going to do today, for the rest of the day, and tomorrow. And usually, you know, they would smarten up after a while.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions online, Keithlin?
No questions so far.
Any additional questions from the audience members, comments? I know it has been quite an impactful session. I mean, I've been a part of Helen's Daughters for a few years now, and I'm at R, and I was aware of most of these initiatives, so I can imagine what it's like for most of you. And I really want to thank, we have one of our members in the audience, and she's extremely passionate about what she does. If she gets an idea, she calls me. So thank you for journeying down from Nevis to be here with us, the other half of Paradise. And I really want to say to those delegates who are also here in the room, I'm assuming that you have seen some of St. Kitts, so please take some time, if possible, and visit the other half of Paradise. And feel free to call Mackie to see his farm. Any other questions, any comments? Anybody online? Okay, so I think we did such an awesome job then. So I really want to, well, before I close, Keithlin, is there anything else you would like to say?
I just want to once again thank everyone for attending our session. And well, there's a comment now in the chat actually from Marvel. It's a good initiative with the establishment of Helen's Daughters, and it would be great if the stakeholders can get more involved. Thank you, Marvel. No, I just want to thank everyone for coming to our panel discussion at the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. And also, I would love to encourage everyone to visit us at the open day, visit our Helen's Daughters booths. We are recreating our farmers market, so please feel free to visit.
Yes, please do. And we are already there. As a matter of fact, quite all few ladies are on the ground, and you'll also get Beryl is also one of our members who will be there selling some of our items. So she not only is a tradeswoman, that she made those go backs, but she's also an agro-processor farmer. Well, Jacqueline of all trades. So yes, please feel free to visit the open day today and tomorrow and sample some of those cultural food items, cuisines from St. Kitts and Nevis, and we have some other Caribbean islands who are also there with us. So on behalf of our panelists, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to say to the panelists, also thank them for their participation. A big special thank you to Beryl, Mackie, and Keithlin for sharing their journey and insights. To our audience members, your engagement makes these conversations impactful. Thank you so much for your questions, your comments. Today, we hope to inspire persons to want to champion leadership and inclusion in communities. So let's continue supporting grassroots activities, building partnerships, as well as fostering relationships and innovations across the Caribbean. Thank you again. And before I dismiss everyone and say, enjoy the rest of Caribbean Week of Agriculture, I really want us to watch the video for Beryl one more time.
Yes, so I started my journey with Helen Daughters in 2023. After completing the Ad Academy, I registered to become a member and was successful. While being a member of Helen Daughter, I've gained some benefits, like I have a market to sell my produce, and I've also been in camaraderie with other members of Helen Daughter through the WhatsApp chat and through field visits. When I was chosen as an ambassador, I was a bit skeptical. Being a very shy person, I did not want to be in the front, so although I accepted the position, I thought it was probably a one-off thing, so I accepted it. But after becoming an ambassador, I've received so much benefit. I got training in brand building, training in grant writing, and I was given the opportunity to travel on several occasions to represent Helen daughters, and it was really beneficial for me. I call this project the Grow Box for Empowerment Project because I am trying to empower persons with disabilities and older women who may not be able to go out and till the soil. So I'm making a grow box for donation to persons with disabilities and older women over 60. This grow box is built at a height where they can use it and manage it from a chair, sitting down on a chair, or even from a wheelchair. I was inspired because of my own condition. I am a person with a disability and I am a strong advocate for persons with disabilities. So I wanted to provide them or give back to them. I've been building grow boxes for a couple of weeks now. So far I've built about 6 grow boxes. My first grow box I will donate today to a person with a physical disability. She's an amputee, and when I introduced the box to her, she was very enthusiastic and was willing to accept one, so I will be giving her the grow box today. What I will be providing is the grow box and what I call a starter kit. The starter kit contains a little hand shovel, a pair of gloves, a spray bottle, and some seeds. The individual will get a start. They don't have to go out and look for seedlings or anything like that to start their farming journey. Okay, the challenges, they weren't much challenges for the project. Just mainly one is the production of the seedlings. Right now, the weather is extremely hot and you have to have cool conditions for seedlings to grow. With donation from the civil society, I might be able to secure some more. My project is scalable, which means I don't have to stop in my community, okay? This project can be extended to other communities, other villages, even another country. This project, the Go Box for Empowerment, can reach people even across the Caribbean. And my intention is to continue my project as far as possible, okay?
Thanks again, everyone. It truly was a pleasure being here today. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Good.